Chapter 1. Ancestry. Archbishop Thomas Becket, who for 4 centuries after his gruesome murder in Canterbury Cathedral would be nicknamed Lux Londoniarum, the light of the Londoners, was the only surviving son of Gilbert and Matilda Becket, born very probably when the wreck of the White Ship was still the hottest news in town. The time was the afternoon of St. Thomas the Apostle's Day, 21st of December. The place, a large house in Cheapside, standing on the fief of the Marmion family, to whom a substantial annual quit-rent was due. Lying on the north side of Cheapside, between Ironmonger Lane and Old Jewry, the Becket's house was within earshot of the busiest street market in London. Most likely built of wood and limestone, with narrow, unglazed windows, its main living areas were the open hall or main reception area, warmed by a central stone hearth, with a private chamber to the side, where the family lived, slept, and entertained their closest friends and relatives. The open hall would have been lit by wax tapers, furnished with trestle tables and stools, and with washing bowls and basins suitably positioned by the door or in an alcove. Servants who waited on the family and prepared their meals slept in the hall. Beneath the house was an undercroft or cellar, perhaps serving as a warehouse to store goods. Possibly the kitchen was at one end of the hall behind a wooden screen, maybe outside in an annex to minimize the risk of fire. Water for cooking and washing would be drawn from a private well or purchased from one of the city's many water carriers, who scooped river water from the Thames into leather pouches, selling them door to door. Soap was generally made from ashes, and the Beckets cleaned their teeth using green hazel shoots before polishing them with woolen cloths. While Gilbert and Matilda's open hall was apparently larger than average, their living chamber may have been fairly cramped. Working back from documents compiled in 1227-28, it can be estimated that the property had a street frontage of 40 feet, a rear width of 110 feet, and a depth of 165 feet, but the greatest portion of this area was taken up by a garden. The same documents show that the adjacent houses were approached via gatehouses and provided with outdoor latrines flowing into cesspits, so perhaps the Beckets' house had such amenities too. Baptized in the nearby parish church of St. Mary Colechurch, Thomas was named after the apostle whose festival it was. His godparents promised to protect him from fire and water and other perils until he was 7, and teach him the Lord's Prayer, the Ave Maria, or Hail Mary, and the Apostles' Creed. Following time-hallowed rituals, the priest dipped him in the font, then placed his thumb in holy oil, making the sign of the cross on his forehead, shoulders, and chest, before wrapping him in a chrism cloth, a white linen christening robe, as a symbol of purity, and to keep him warm. Whereas baptism usually took place when a newborn child was a few days old, Thomas was brought to the church by a midwife or nurse within hours of his birth, suggesting that he may have appeared weak or sickly, or perhaps his parents had lost an earlier child and were determined to make sure their son was christened at once. His father would have been present at the church, but not his mother, since canon or church law forbade a newly delivered woman from entering a consecrated space until she had been ritually purified in a special ceremony some 40 days after her lying in. Around the year 1110, Gilbert and Matilda Becket had joined settlers from Rouen, the chief city of the Norman dukes, who had flocked to London, enticed by the city's expanding trade. Most likely, Gilbert was a draper's merchant, since Cheapside and its environs were inhabited mainly by goldsmiths and those dealing wholesale in textiles, and Gilbert is known not to have been a goldsmith. Although arriving from Rouen, their exact birthplaces are disputed. William Fitzstephen, no relation to the skipper of the White Ship, also born to Norman parents in London and one of Thomas Becket's earliest biographers, says that Gilbert came from a fairly humble family living close to Thierville in the valley of the Rille, not far from Bec Abbey, some 25 miles from Rouen. An anonymous Canterbury monk says it was from Rouen itself, and that Matilda, who is sometimes called Rose, was most likely born and raised in Caen. Married at around the age of 20, the couple emigrated to England soon after their wedding. The surname Becket